Well, hey everybody, it's Jody Sharp from Superflies for Super Guys, and today we're going to tie this beetle pattern right here. It's called the foam bubble beetle. That's what I've called it, and it's got this cool little bubble feature on the back. So when you tie it in, instead of sealing down the back, you leave a loop, and it forms this little bubble. And when you pull it in the water, it makes some little bubbles behind it. So it's a really fish attracting pattern. I really like fishing with it, and I think you're gonna like it too. It's really floaty. It's colorful, and it's just a really nice pattern. And as we know, it's springtime, and when it's springtime, one of the first bugs out is the beetle. So if you're a trout fisherman or panfish fisherman, panfish really love these beetles. Trout really love these beetles. So it's a really good, effective pattern for early spring and throughout the summer and even in the fall. So, because beetles are just one of the first bugs out crawling about. So let's get into tying it. So the first thing we're going to use is a size 4 egg hook. So like a really short rounded hook. So we're going to put that fly in our vise, or put that hook in our vise. All right. The thread we're going to use today is a clear nylon thread. Most of the base of most of my flies is usually clear nylon thread. I tie some flies in other colors too, but usually a lot of my patterns, the base thread for tying is always clear nylon. And then if we're adding some sort of colors, I'll usually add a color in there afterwards. So we've attached our thread. Now our materials today are pretty simple materials. We've got some orange wool dubbing. So if you get some fluorescent orange wool, you can get it usually at the dollar store, Dollar Tree, whatever your local dollar store is. And if you can't find it there, you can always get it at your local craft shop, and often even at Walmart. So there's that. We're going to need some 1mm black foam, and you don't need very much. This little square will make 5 or 6 of those beetles. And the last ingredient is these broom bristles. I think I have a video on my page. If I don't, I will do one soon talking about broom bristles and the different thicknesses, the different colors, the different purposes. For today's purpose, we will be using these medium thin ones. So there's, in the black broom bristles, I found that there's really thick broom bristles, really thin broom bristles, and then the medium broom bristles. So these are the medium broom bristles. They make spectacular legs on nymphs, beetles, and a lot of different flies, but for today we're using them on the beetles. So take about 3 individual broom bristles, and what you're going to do is you're going to, when you cut them off your broom, like when you buy a broom, you're going to get them, just cut off the little fuzzy bits, because we don't need that. Okay, and then what you'll be left with is this. And for today's beetle, you just want to cut those in half, and then you'll get 6 legs. Now you don't need all 6 legs, obviously. You're only going to need 3, but if you make another fly, then you'll have. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our foam, and we're going to cut it to the width of the beetle body. All right, and let's see if I can measure that up for you guys and let you know the width. It is I don't know how to say that. It's about 1, 2, 3, 4. So if each one of 10 centimeters, or 10 millimeters is in a centimeter, so 5 centimeters. So that's pretty much, you're going to cut it to about 5 centimeters. Now I'm just going to eyeball it, but if you have a ruler, you can just measure it up, but you want about 5 centimeters. But when you've been tying it as much as me, you just learn how to eyeball stuff. And I have all kinds of little templates. So like, if I cut a little strip of this, I'll make a template, put it in a baggie, and say this is my beetle backs or whatever, for whatever beetles. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure our thread is right at the eye of our hook now. And we're going to start tying it down. And at the head of the eye, you can be really tight, and till you get around to the bend of the hook, and then you don't want to go as tight. So when you're tying on with foam, one thing that every foam tyer needs to know is the pressure of your line, and this is only something you can learn, but this line will cut through foam pretty easily. So you want it strong enough to tie it in, but you don't want it strong enough that it'll cut through. And the other thing is where you've tied it tight is not it's compressing the foam. It is not allowing that beetle to float. So where the foam is loose, so this end on what will be the base of the fly, that'll be loose, and that is the floaty part of your fly. That is helping your entire fly to float. So that's something to keep in mind. So now that you've tied it in, you're going to want it to measure it so that you'll see that it comes around, makes that little loop, and then comes around to the front, and then you're going to be able to bend it over. Now I didn't tell you the length, I told you the width. And the length, forgive my magnet, it's trying to catch me. Ah. You want it 6 centimeters and 5 millimeters. That's how long you want it, because that'll be the right amount of length to do that. All right. So now that we've tied that in and we've checked it, made sure it's going to loop around, right? Because we need to make our eyes and everything. The next thing we're going to need is to tie in our legs. So if you go to the back of your fly, you're going to tie a pair on there, and you're just going to do a couple loose wraps, and then you'll be able to adjust the length, and you want it even on both sides. All right, and then we're just going to do a couple of turns this way, a couple of turns this way. So it's going to be nice and solid in there, and then you can push them back a little bit. And you're going to take your second pair of legs, and you can move your thread up a little closer to the eye, but you don't want it. You want to leave about 1 millimeter or 2 just in front of the eye, because you don't want to crowd your eye. All right, and then you're going to put it in, and you can just use your fingers and adjust it. Okay, a couple turns that way, a couple turns that way. All right, see, I've left some space because when you tie in your eyes, you're going to use that space to put the actual eye of the fly. And another thing, before you tie it down, you can always push it a little bit forward with your fingers, and it'll slide a little bit on the hook. So you can adjust it a little bit. All right, so those 2 legs on the front, we're going to push forward, and then you're going to take your thread and you're going to put it exactly in the middle between these 2 legs and the front 2 legs and the back 2 legs. And we're going to tie in these legs here. And you're going to make sure You line them up the same length with the other two legs. All right. When you're happy with that. And as I go along, I like to do some half hitch loops, and you know, every step or two that I do, because if your thread ever breaks, it won't just start unraveling all crazy from your fly. What will actually happen is that half hitch loop will stop the progress at the last point you did, so you won't lose all the progress you did. And this way, if your line ever snaps or breaks, you can always just reattach and carry on, and your work is preserved. So that is our legs. Now the next thing we're going to do is take some of our crazy glue, and we're just going to put some crazy glue on those legs and secure them in. So this way they'll be really locked in there, really tight. They won't move around, and they won't shift on you. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is take some of our dubbin. Now, if you don't want to do it in orange, you can do it in green, you can do it in pink, you can do it in yellow, whatever color you want. I just so happened today that I really want to do these orange ones. Orange is a really attractive fish color, really super attractive. Pink and reds will also be that really. So if you do pink, reds, oranges, those colors are really attractive to fish. But it's up to you. You could use peacock herl. You could wrap a herl through there. But just for today, we're going to finger dub some orange dubbin on there. So we're going to take our orange dubbin, and we're just going to finger dub it on. Like so. And then we're going to start wrapping it around a couple of wraps. All right. Then once you wrap it behind those two legs, you're going to take those two legs and you're going to pull them back towards the fly again. And then you'll wrap the next section, so you'll apply more wool. Now you're gonna find a lot of guys online are gonna say wax your thread. If you want to wax your thread, go ahead. I have never yet waxed the thread to tie on any materials onto a fly, ever. I have tools that do it. I have, dubbin loop spinners. I have all those things. I have yet to put wax on. I'm not putting down guys who use wax. If you feel wax helps you, by all means. Sometimes some of the older guys, and I'm getting older myself, so there might come a day where my fingers don't work as well. I might need to put some wax on to put on certain dubbins and things. I'm not putting down the older guys. I'm just saying I'm not personally there yet. If you're there, you might want to wax your line. Just put a little wax. You can buy this wax. It does help. I've yet to need it. And I have never had a fly fall apart on me, and any of the ones I've designed have yet to need it. So I'm not putting it down. That's a personal choice whether you want to use it or not. So now that we dubbed in between these legs, we're going to push those two legs back, and we're going to dub. Again, we're going to apply our dub on with our fingers, like so. And then now we have dubbed our entire place like that. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to put my thread right up here in front of those two legs, and I'm going to tie it off just in case it snaps. Now here's something I want to do. I want to make this a little buggy, so I'm going to take my little dubbin brush. This is just a barbecue brush cleaner, a smaller one, and I just want to give it a little light brush, not crazy on this fly. Some flies you want to go crazy. This one you just want to go gentle on. If you can't find one of these brushes, you can always put some Velcro on a popsicle stick, which also works, and you can use a Velcro on a popsicle stick. Just take some hot glue and glue it on. It works really, really well. So, and I for many years before I could find one of those brushes, that is exactly what I did. So, now I'm going to turn my fly back over, and I'm going to push these leggies straight so that they're all relatively straight. I'm going to bend over the curve. I cannot tell you exactly how much. And again, if you want a little bit larger beetle, you can use a little larger. If you want a little bit thinner, you can use a little bit thinner. And if I didn't want that bubble effect on the beetle, I could put some crazy glue here and then crazy glue it down, and it would be more flat. But of course, this is a bubble beetle and a foam bubble beetle, and I want those bubbles to be in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure about the size I want it. I'm going to push these legs all back, so they're all back now. And then where the foam meets the dubbin, I'm going to tie down the foam with a few good wraps. Again, not cutting off the foam. So don't make your wraps too tight, but just tight enough. And that's something, unfortunately, you just have to practice. If you tie a lot of foam flies, you just have to practice the tension on a fly. And that's just the way it is. There's nobody going to be able to tell you. Like, I can tell you to be light, but until you tie it, you don't know. I can tell you to be hard. Until you tie it, you don't know. So that's just something that comes with tie a dozen up, and by the time you've tied a dozen, you're going to understand, oh, the first one, oh, I cut through the foam. The second one, oh, that was too loose. It didn't hold it down. Third one, okay, this is in between. This is probably the right tension. So that's how you're going to know. And each foam is different. So like a 1 millimeter foam and a 5 millimeter foam and a 1 millimeter foam, very different thickness, right? So it depends on the foam you're using and how open cell or closed cell the foam is. So when you're making foam bugs, you got to think about what kind of foam you're using for that. Okay, so now we've got our thing tied in, and again we locked it in this step. All right, so we don't lose it. Now here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna fold over your foam, probably about 2 or 3 millimeters worth, and you're going to hold it down onto the top of your fly like so with your finger, and then you're going to tie this down using 4 or 5 good wraps like so. All right, and then this extra foam here is not needed, so I'm going to use my rounded Dr. Schlicks. So if you happen to have a rounded pair of Dr. Schlicks, that is going to be helpful, or any rounded scissor. And you're just going to cut a little round edge like that. All right, and then you can put that foam aside. Now, you could tie this off, and this fly is complete. I'm just going to lock it in like so. But I like to make it look like it has eyes. That's just me. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So you're going to take your thread, you're going to hold it up. I don't need so much line. I don't need so much thread out. Hang on. Bear with me, folks. Okay, you're going to hold your thread up. You're going to pull it across to the middle of, in between that piece of foam where the head is. You're going to pull it down, and you're going to come up, and it's a bit tricky. You're going to come up from the other side. It's being stubborn today. Sometimes you need to pinch it with your fingers too. So if you pinch this is hard to see on camera. So if you pinch it with your two fingers, you come up from underneath, and you'll see now you have a divided in the center. And if you come up and you go from the other side, again, pinch with your two fingers. All right. And you'll see you have the eyes forming. Now, I will tie it down, or I'll lock it in, and then you should be able to, if you're very careful, push the fly back just a little bit on the hook at this point to make sure that your eye is available so that you can tie your thread in. And then we'll just make sure we lock it in with a couple, 2 or 3, maybe 4 for good measure. Now that's locked in there. At this point, a lot of guys will take some head cement or some crazy glue or some UV resin, and they'll just lock that in. I really don't want to do that. I will just leave it as it is. It's not going to unravel. It is not going to unravel. It is, if you've tied this properly, you don't really need that. Now, if you want it for security, put it in there. I'm not stopping you. Go ahead. Do as you please. If it's not needed, don't use it. That's how I always think. I try to think that less is more. So the less materials you have to use to get the job done, the better. Think about it like this. The less you need to do to get the job done is good. But as you guys know, I'm a fancy fly tyer. I tie really fancy flies. I tie artistic flies. I tie really realistic flies. I still want it to look realistic. So if I need to put more into it to get it to look the way I want or function the way I want, this is how you need to look at a fly. What is it you want out of that fly? If you're going to put it on display, maybe you're going to make some jewelry out of it. Maybe you're going to make a pin or a pendant or a hair clip or some sort of thing, or earrings for a woman or whatever. If you're going to do that, the fly has to be different than if you're going to put it in the water and fish it. And you want it to look the best it can. When you put in a fly in the water, if you want it to sink, you need to weight it. If you want it to float, you need to put floating things into it and take away as many heavy elements out of it as you can. If you want it to swim a certain way, maybe you need a lip on it, a plastic lip. Maybe you need, a tail to be a certain way. You have to think about, when you're planning out your fly, what is it you want it to look like? What profile do you want it? I always say when you're making bugs, make it look buggy. You don't have to make a beetle that looks exactly like a beetle. Now, if you can, I have hundreds of beetles I've tied that look exactly like the beetle, like 100%. This is, I'm not going to call it a lazy man's beetle, but if you're going to go out and you need a box full of flies, you can tie these up in a short amount of time. Now, of course, we're doing a demo here, so this fly is probably going to show you on a half an hour, but this is like a 5-minute fly or a 10-minute fly for me to tie that up. So if you just need a box of flies that'll go out and catch you fish, There's a lot of flies that'll do that. If you want to be fancy and tie a really super fancy bug, then yeah, you can add. As a matter of fact, I'll show you. Here's a fancy bug. Here's one right here. I'll put it on the, like, here is a German cockroach. It is a very fancy fly. I'll show you from the underneath. It is a German cockroach. It's got every part. It's even got the little mandibles in the front, the antenna. The wing case is absolutely correct. I mean, this is as close to a German cockroach. If you saw this on the floor, you'd try and squish it. As a matter of fact, I tested it on my wife like that, and she freaked right out. So, if you want real bugs, you can make real bugs. Those are real floaty. I've designed them really well. They look really well, and they float really well. But they're going to take you an hour to make that. It's not going to be made in 10 minutes. Some flies, I designed them, they take 2 hours or 3 hours. Some guys start looking at 2 or 3 hour flies and go, I would never put that on a hook because I don't want to, I put so much effort into it, put it in a showcase. So it's up to you. I've taken a fly that's taken me 6 hours and I've put it on the hook and fished it. It fishes great. The fish are convinced, they eat it. But it's up to you what you want to do. If you want to be a really super complicated tire, or if you want to be a simple tire. Some guys just want what will catch them fish. This is going to catch you fish. You go out with this bug, you're going to have a 300 fish afternoon. You go for panfish. If you go use this for bluegills, sunfish, rock bass. They're gonna eat this like crappies. They're gonna eat this like it's candy. You're gonna have a fantastic day. You throw this on your line in a nice summer day. That's gonna catch you fish. Even bass. I catch bass on them all the time. It's a super great fly. It doesn't have to be complicated to be fish catchy. It's got orange on it with a contrasting black. The fish just love that fly. They love it. This pattern. It's easy. It's simple. And if you're new to tying, this is the kind of thing that you want to learn. You want to learn how to make these flies. And if you never go beyond that, that's up to you. If you want to learn more complicated flies, stick with me. I'm going to start tying some more complicated ones. If you see, I've got a bee on here. I've got some of my grasshoppers on here. They're complicated. But I have simple versions of them too that work just as well. So anyways, this is your bubble beetle. Now the last step before we finish this guy off is his legs. You need to shape his legs. Now the super great thing about these broom bristles is that they're flexible enough if a fish bites it that they're going to flex, but they're strong enough that they're going to hold their shape really well. So this is a fantastic thing about broom bristles. Now, I do have some stiffer broom bristles. I use them to glue eyes on. If you want a really heavy leg, if you're doing a bug with a really heavy leg, like a tarantula or scorpion or something for like really artistic where you need a really heavy leg, then you can use a heavier broom bristle. But if you need lighter legs, and I even have lighter legs than these, so if you're doing some really fine nymph work, then sometimes you just need a really fine broom bristle or an antenna that's really fine, because the legs on a beetle or a thing are thinner or are thicker than the antennas. The antennas go down to a tapered look, so then you need a thin broom bristle. But that's a bug for another day. Let's finish this guy off. All right. So you're going to take your legs and you're going to line them up. Now here's a beautiful little trick. On a beetle like this, you can make the legs all the same. So you can line them all three at the same time. You want to go about 2 millimeters, possibly 3 millimeters away from the body, and then you're going to do a 90-degree bend. Then you're going to take your finger and you're going to bend them all up like that. And there you have all your legs done at once. Then you're going to go on the other side, grab up those three, 90-degree bend, 90-degree bend. And then you can spread them out. And this is quite fishy. You can fish that like that. What I like to do at this point is just trim the ends of the feet just slightly. All right. Because they're just a little longer than they need to be. And you can just take each individual leg and just bend them in an upward so that they're pointing up, so that this makes them just a little closer to the body. Make sure that your front legs are sort of facing forward, like so. All right, and they you can move them about, right? So like again, they're flexible, so you can move them. If a fish bites them, they're not gonna impede your fly, but they're strong enough that they'll maintain their shape. So you can just bend them quickly back into shape, and you're ready to catch the next fish. So that's the bubble beetle, the foam bubble beetle. Tie some up. Let me know in the comments how that worked for you. If you fish them this year, let me know how they did for you. I have a community section on the channel now, so if you want to show me some of the pics of your flies, show me pics of your catches with the flies, post them up there. I'd be happy to see them. Let's grow this channel, guys and girls, and let's have some fun, and let's share some great moments together. All right, well, that's me. Keep your fly on the water, tight lines, and in my case, fish on Canada. All right, bye for now, guys.